So let's talk about the BTC inflows and what's going on this week. It's down.
Yes, things have changed dramatically. This entire week has been down. Not high numbers of down. I mean, millions of dollars, yeah, but not like the inflows have been. We're still averaging relatively high because we've had 2 months of high numbers,
Hmm.
but the entire week has been outflow.
Okay.
This is kind of an indicator that maybe the rush to get into the spot ETFs is slowing, at least for the current wave of investors. And Grayscale continues to bleed. So if you look a little bit into the numbers, Grayscale is bleeding, $300-400 million a day, and they're kind of erasing the part where other people are investing in spot ETFs that are not Grayscale.
And they're the biggest ETF right now. People are just getting out of that one.
Well, they were early and they were the first mover. They were a futures ETF and then they
Right.
got converted. And so there was maybe $40 billion in them. And
Hmm.
now they're down in the 20s and they continue to fall.
And their fees, they lowered their fees, but people are still exiting.
They lowered their fees, but their fees are still higher than zero. And
Right.
there's some offering zero. So the fact
Okay.
that some people are offering zero means I don't pay any fees.
Hmm.
I may want to move.
And we
And
saw it early on. People were leaving there and jumping into onto the inflows into what we're seeing on.
it was pretty clear when you look at the earlier numbers that the people that are moving are not really moving out
Right.
of Bitcoin. They're just moving out of a higher cost structure.
Hmm.
So the fee structure was higher and that pushed them to say, well, I don't pay as much if I go to this guy. I'll go to this guy and hold his instead. And since ETFs are really easily traded on the open floor in a day, they just dump that one, go buy this one.
Right.
And it's real quick. It's real simple.
Right.
And that's why millions of dollars can trade like that really quickly.
Wonder if the Fed meeting this week has something to do with the lack of inflows.
I think, anytime you have government interest, whether it's rate changes or numbers about consumer pricing, any of this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
it does have an effect on traditional markets and it does have an effect on crypto
Yep.
markets.
Yep.
So I'm sure that any of those kind of news events which cause people to be more cautious or want to have more liquid cash that they go spend or
Right.
hide under their mattress or whatever they do, will reduce, investment or maybe they're taking out, right? This happens too, but they're generally not sustained based on those kinds of numbers. It's generally sustained because those numbers continue from statement to statement, month to month,
Hmm.
whatever. And there's a trend like they're raising an interest rate only 1/4%, but they do it 5 times in a row. Well, that's 1.25%. That's significant.
Right.
Right. But any one individual event, a lot of people are like thinking that's going to be a really big deal. And it isn't necessarily that big of a deal if it's not a sustained number, right? It's not a sustained change.
Do you think that this week or the last week and a half, there's been some talk about the SEC going after Ethereum as a security? Do you think some of that could be keeping people out of the crypto market?
I'm sure that's FUD that keeps people that are less knowledgeable out. But if you look closely at that kind of news, that really is FUD.
Hmm.
That really is people making something up and trying to make it into more than it really is.
And that might have more to do, obviously, with the upcoming ETH ETF and that play.
It's unclear if people are playing games to try
Yes.
and talk down about
Right.
an asset that they want to collect.
So keeping the price down by talking bad about it,
Sure.
sharing people out of it.
Or not talking about it, right?
Right.
If I'm not out there telling you I'm going for this and I'm gonna make this ETF and this is gonna do well and I believe in it and I'm buying it, well, it might go up a lot before my ETF is open and that might not be good for me. So maybe I just keep my mouth shut and somebody else is talking bad about it and I just don't respond. I don't show any interest and I keep acquiring for my
Hmm.
own personal interest or for the
Right.
future of my ETF. I'm not sure how early they can acquire ahead of an approval, but I could see where if you had the money in place and you saw that there was a benefit to be had,
Hmm.
there would, there'd be a temptation to buy in and ride the up wave before you actually had permission.
This will show though my lack of knowledge on this topic. If ETH did get declared as security, couldn't it still be trade? Couldn't we still work with it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it's
Absolutely.
not a death blow to ETH. In fact, if they did label as a security, would that give it more legitimacy?
Well, it would cause a lot of lawsuits
Okay.
because there are people who in the government who are saying it's not a security.
Both sides. There's people saying both, right? Within the government.
within the government. Yeah. So, like the SEC hasn't technically said it's a security,
Right.
but if they were to say it's a security, the CFTC is saying, no, it's a commodity.
And they're fighting over a turf war over who wants to control this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a turf war.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a government organization turf war.
So if the SEC won and did declare the security, that wouldn't it be the end of Ethereum
Well, like I said, what would happen would be lawsuits. Okay?
from all the developers and
There would be lawsuits from people who would think that now because they lost money and they invested early, maybe they can sue developers or somebody involved in
okay.
how they got it. There
right.
could be lawsuits to say, no, I don't believe it's a security and I want you to take that back. There could be a turf war lawsuit saying it is, it isn't, and then there's a fight about it is and it isn't. That doesn't provide the regulatory clarity that people want in order to invest.
The XRP lawsuit, they finally won that and they weren't the security.
They did win, and it caused a big boost in the price of Ripple,
Right.
but it didn't necessarily change their overall business. Remember, it was only the U.S. that was having the problem, and the rest of the world was happy with it.
Right.
So, they kind of just did their business in the rest of the world and fought hard for crypto.
Right. Does that create a roadmap for ETH in the court case for them to also do the same path?
There have been essentially nothing but wins since then. So
By the crypto community,
the crypto community is pounding the government.
Right. And winning in court.
They're winning in court.
Okay.
The government is trying to say one side of its mouth to one crypto and out of the other side of its mouth to another crypto. And the judge is saying, well, you can't treat them different,
Right.
or this is not your job to legislate from,
Okay.
you don't have this authority. And so this is really good because it provides case law for people like Coinbase who have the money and have the lawyers to go at them and say, no, what you're saying is wrong and what you're doing is wrong. And personally, I find this very gratifying. It's one of the things that, I'm happy to support Coinbase because Coinbase is supporting the industry
Mm-hmm.
and they are absolutely fighting for you and I, for our right, for privacy, for our right to trade crypto, for reasonable rules, for regulatory clarity, all the things that we need in order for our crypto efforts to be successful. They're like fighting for the common guy as much as they're fighting for their stock price.
Right. Well, and they're creating a foundation, right? With all these ETFs are all going to be the custodian for these is on Coinbase.
Yeah. Well,
And there's
for all
more-
of the current
ones,
ETFs
right?
are that way. And it looks like they're going to be the de facto custodian for the ETH people too.
Right. Right. So they're our best advocate. They're the biggest advocate we have.
Well, they've been spending millions of dollars in lawsuits to
Right.
to try and keep crypto open
Mm-hmm.
and available. And they're not going to win every fight, and they're not going to fight everything that people want, because there's a lot of different people in crypto. Some of them feel like privacy is something that is innate, that you should have,
Mm-hmm.
and that the government should never be able to take it from you. But you're probably not going to see crypto creep into grandma's wallet until the government can make sure that grandma gets to keep her crypto. It's just,
Keep it safe.
well,
Keep it.
to secure it or to prevent it from being stolen or
Right.
or get it returned or seized back if it's taken by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the kinds of things that really go against some of the original crypto ethos. It's not your keys, not your crypto.
Right.
If I legitimately have the crypto, it's mine, it's not yours, and it doesn't matter whether or not the person who got it before me stole it and then I bought it from them. That nobody from that world cares, and the whole broader world says, well, wait, if my bank gets robbed, they don't take my money. The government helps me out.
Right.
Their job to go chase the criminal and get the money back, and they're going to print some over there and hand it to me later, saying that I'm going to make you whole. But
Sure.
I haven't caught the criminal. This is the kind of thing that makes it harder for crypto to penetrate in the non-crypto world. It's
Right.
self-custody is a challenge.
Well, yeah, if I stole your car out of your driveway and I went to the police and said, I have the keys, and you couldn't, not my keys, not my car. I mean, you could get your keys back, you would get your car. It's your car, right?
Right.
I don't have ownership of your car because I grabbed your keys off your wallet, off your desk.
Right.
That's what we need in crypto for it to go mainstream.
Well, I think there's a certain level of that required not necessarily pervasive. Okay. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that, I personally believe in the privacy, and I don't think it's anybody's right to know what I spend my money on.
Right.
And the government has lots of ways to find out how you spend your money.
Yep.
Your Visa records are basically transparent. So
Mhm.
don't think that because Visa is a company that the government can't just read what you bought last month or last
Oh,
year
they
or
do.
whatever.
Absolutely,
Absolutely,
they
they
do.
have that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I want to, I don't want to give away my Safeway card number to the tax man to find out if I bought too much sugar, and they want to tell me that I'm going to get sick sooner, so I have to pay more taxes
Right.
because I drink too much soda or
Right.
because I bought too much raw sugar to make groceries with or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, it just privacy is something that we should have and we should value, and a lot of people are willing to give up their privacy for very small gains.
So, yeah.
And once you
Right.
don't have privacy, then other things you start to lose too.
Privacy is different than ownership.
Yes.
That's a different issue. Like, that's just not your keys, not your coin isn't the same as privacy. These are two separate topics.
Yeah. But you think about like dollars, you go and spend dollars.
Right.
I go to the bank and I take out $100 and it's, I take out 520s. Okay. And I stop by the coffee shop on the way home and I get a nice scone and a mocha.
Yeah.
Okay. So they get $10 and they give me some change. And, I do this a few things throughout the day and I go buy some milk and I get some soda. Well, the government's not aware that I went and bought a coffee because I paid cash.
Right.
They're not aware that I ate a scone. And they don't need to be.
Mhm.
There's no need for somebody to sit over the top of my activities and decide what I can and can't do, what's good and not good for me, except me. That's
Yeah.
what freedom is.
Right.
And so in some ways, crypto has a very big part to play in the future of that by having some privacy and it doesn't work right now. It definitely doesn't work right now.
Mhm.
It's very hard to own a wallet. Once your
Mhm.
wallet's been ID'd, all the transactions are available. You're not secret anymore. If I get your wallet, if I just ask you for your wallet because I want to send you $5, I can send you $5, and then I can turn around and use that wallet ID to go find out that 8 months ago you bought some Monero, and a year ago you bought some Zcash, and a year and a half ago
Yep.
you bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. Well, you never sold it. It's still in your wallet. So now I know. Oh, shit, the guy's loaded in his wallet.
Right. Like when I watch a YouTube video and I go to the description, and down in the description, you can donate to a channel and they'll have a wallet address,
Mhm.
a BTC wallet address. We can pull that address up and see how much is in there and what's right.
Right.
It's public now.
So I think the only way that doesn't work is if you use an address from a central exchange.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you can read back once it goes in there.
What about you have an ETH address?
Yeah,
So if I
several.
donate, if I donated ETH to you through that address, that's not trackable the same, is it?
What do you mean?
The ETH email address, right? That you have.
Oh, you mean like soulswarmy.eth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone right now,
that absolutely leads to a wallet.
I don't know what wallet that is.
It doesn't matter. You can use that to if you go to Etherscan, you can put in soulswarmy.eth.
Right.
It'll translate for you.
But will tell me what wallet it's connected to.
Absolutely.
And then I could see what's in that wallet. that you
Absolutely.
own. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody's wallet is open information. You go look in my wallet or that you have an address to,
Uh-huh.
you'll know that wallet. You don't necessarily know if I own other wallets. Right. Or other types of wallets. So, non-ETH wallet or say.
Sure. I can see your NFTs. I can see your balance. I can see the activity on your wallet.
Yep.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. That's part of the transparency. So it's both a plus and a minus in crypto, right?
It is.
It's a wonderful plus for, hey, I didn't do anything. Here, look at my wallet.
Right.
Go see for
I have
yourself.
nothing to hide. Right.
Right? There's nothing hidden. You don't have to, you don't need to search for it. You can
Mhm.
go just look in my wallet, right? And
But just because we have nothing to hide doesn't mean we don't want privacy.
That's
We still want
that's
privacy.
my
Exactly.
see, I think it's not about not having something to hide. It's about none of your business.
Right. Yep.
And I don't go look in other people's wallets. Now, lots of people do. And I mean, there's some very interesting wallets you can go look in, but
Oh, sure.
I personally don't go chase them. I've watched shows like on Spaces and whatnot where people are like, oh, here, check this. Let's go see this.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's got some cool stuff. And they're like flipping through and it almost feels like you've broken into their house and you're looking in their closet for the
Right.
clothes they wear. It's weird.
Yeah, but it's going to be weird tonight when I go look at your ETH wallet now that you gave me your address. I think it's awkward. Hey, man.
Hey, go ahead, have fun. I tell you that, have fun. But really, the thing that's kind of weird about it is not just what's in your wallet.
Okay.
It's every transaction that's ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that wallet could be empty, but there's still a plethora of information about the history of that wallet from the time that it was created and all of the activity that went on to the current day. And it remains there on the blockchain indefinitely. You're not hiding that.
Right.
And some people don't recognize that
Mm-hmm.
or see how it could be good or bad. Right.
Yep.
And I think, like, just like you can't go into my house without me, and you wouldn't, if you were at my house, you wouldn't necessarily go into, say, the master bedroom, where I might have a picture on the wall that you've never seen, maybe it's a famous painting and it's expensive, and you would never know that it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I had a ringer or a Fidenza or something like that in my wallet, you're looking at the master bedroom at the painting on the wall
Right.
by looking in the wallet.
So I can see all your NFTs. I can see which ones could I see
The
the
ones-
NFT itself?
So, oh yeah, yeah. You can see all of it.
Okay.
Now you might have to chase that in another way. So there are easier ways to do the same thing. So
Mhm.
most people's wallets are going to, if they're into NFTs, would be on something like OpenSea or Magic Eden.
Okay.
Well, you can go in there and enter their wallet address and go look them up.
And see the NFT, see the artwork,
You
and
can
really
see the
look
artwork,
at it.
and you can see the artwork, and it'll show you properties and details and
Okay.
all the things that go with it too.
Right.
And it's a lot easier way to do it, to be honest. You'd be better off to go to OpenSea and type in Solswani than you would be to go to, Etherscan,
And
because
digging up the
Etherscan is going to be
address.
like a list of transactions or coins or things like this.
Right.
It's going to be all text.
Right.
It's going to be hard to interpret.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you go to OpenSea and you open it, it's like, damn, that's a lot of NFTs. But if you go look at them, they're mostly worthless. So
Right. Maybe not
Well,
forever.
most NFTs are worthless. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
So 95% of them aren't going to be worth much ever.
Yeah.
But some of them will be valuable to people, not necessarily for dollar value. The ETH that I spent for NFTs might have been a better asset to hold, but I enjoy my NFTs. I enjoy the artwork of them. I enjoy the connection with the artists who create them. I enjoy the access that some of them give me. They're
Right.
not all art. They're not all pictures, right?
Right.
So as an example, we've talked about it before, but like the DGens, CodePass is an access to a tool for
Mhm.
crypto information.
Mm-hmm.
And those kinds of things are valuable. You can't get at it without it.
Now, last week we talked about altcoins and community. So there's different types of altcoins out there, obviously, different like subsets. You have, for example, Solana would be considered an altcoin,
Mhm.
and so is Pepe.
Mhm.
But those are very different coins.
Mhm.
Like meme coins are a subset of altcoins, but the community is super important on those meme coins, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the social aspect of a meme coin is paramount.
Your Pepe is up 565% this month.
Yeah, I made $60.
So what's the use? Yeah. Okay. So what's the use case behind Pepe? Is there a use case?
No, Pepe's a meme coin. It's Pepe is like a throwback to Matt Fury and the original Pepe meme.
Okay.
And just like all the Pepes, right?
Mhm.
They all come back to Matt Fury. And it's the history and the connection to that people make, like the first time they saw Pepe or the first time somebody gave them a Pepe, or they laughed really hard at this funny Pepe meme, right?
Right.
They get a connection there somehow. And then they see, oh, Pepe's like a 100,000th of a penny. Why don't I get 1,000 of those? And I got 1,000, feel rich,
Right.
right? But if it ever pumped to $1, it's
You would be rich.
$1,000.
Right.
Right. It's 1,000 Pepe, but it was, I spent $4 and it became $1,000.
Right.
That's awesome. That's great. Right.
Yeah.
But it's probably,
So it's gambling. I mean,
it's totally gambling.
it's gambling. It's not
It's totally
investing.
gambling.
It's gambling.
It's
Maybe
not-
you'll get that 1,000x.
Use case is functional or not.
Right.
Right. And meme coin is social, not functional.
Dogecoin has a use case.
Dogecoin's-
Maybe coming up. Maybe.
So Dogecoin is an unusual case because Doge started as a meme coin a long time ago.
Right.
And then it started getting adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way that there's been interest in pursuing it, actually, Elon Musk turned around and hired developers to go back to improve Doge. I think it was a year and a half, or maybe it was even 2 years ago.
Right.
It was some time ago. But he hired developers, and he didn't tell them what to do. he told them what he wanted to see happen. He wanted it to be more usable as a medium of exchange. He wanted to have somebody clean up some of the things
Hmm.
that weren't right about it. And so some people did some work and improved it, but at the same time, it's Elon Musk. So
Right.
people saw that and they were like, Dogecoin, Elon Musk, let me go
Therefore,
run buy some.
right.
And it pumped to the moon. It
Well,
went
this
crazy. It
weekend
went to like
pumped a little
75
bit,
cents. Well,
15%. And he said it could still be used to buy Teslas. He didn't say that it will be, but he started talking that way again.
it's going to come back around. I have no doubt that Doge will come back around. But, it's about 14 cents right now, 15 cents, something like
Hmm.
that. It hit 75 cents, so it's still got a chance to fight that.
Yeah, when his X platform becomes more of a payment process, he's talking about using it for way more than it is now. Doge will be a part of that. He's
X is
the
supposed to be the everything
the
platform.
everything, right?
Yeah, so you
Your
spend
bank.
all your time there. Your bank,
Yep.
your grocery store, everything.
Right.
Oh, I want to call an Uber. Oh, I'm on X. I just do it from
Right.
X. I mean, that's how he wants it to be.
And he keeps talking about Doge being a part of that in some way.
Yeah. Well,
Is he being
he did
funny?
it.
Is he
No,
being funny?
no, no. It was really interesting because I just recently saw something where it was a thing that Elon had said he liked the Doge, but the reason he was talking about it was the people. He put up some kind of a poll, and
Okay.
what coins do people like? They like Bitcoin. What do they like? And he found out that Bitcoin is Bitcoin, but the people's coin for the people that were interacting and answering and all of that, they liked the Doge. And because they liked the Dogecoin, he thought that's the people's coin. So the people's coin is the one I'm going to support.
Was that before he was on Saturday Night Live and he talked about it? Was that really
Yes.
early on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So before he ever supported Doge, he asked about cryptos. And the answer he got back was a bunch of people were like, yeah, Dogecoin. And it was
Mhm.
kind of, I don't know if that was a joke. People were making a joke or what.
Right.
But he was like, well, it's a coin like other coins. It has use case that's a little different than, say, Bitcoin, which has, low block rate and low
Mhm.
finality speed and things like this that challenge it to be a currency or something like this. And all these people want to hold it and they all hold it. There's lots of people holding it and there's not a big community of millions and millions of Dogecoin that's held by whales where
Right.
they could dump the market really hard.
Right.
Right. Although there are some challenges in that.
Well,
I don't want to get into that one yet, but
it's funny you say that though, because I know some people in my real world that own Dogecoin. They don't own they know nothing about crypto. They just bought it as a joke a few years ago. And they just thought that would be funny to buy.
yeah,
They've never bought anything since. They're not into Bitcoin. They're not into what we talk about. They have no idea. They don't know any of this stuff.
they
But
just,
they bought that.
yeah.
And it's sitting in some wallet somewhere. I bought some Dogecoin. Why'd you buy it? Oh, it was funny. I was at the party.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was
There
cool.
was this cute girl here and she was showing me the Dogecoin. So I bought the Dogecoin.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Dogecoin, I mean, that's obviously one of the main coins that has a use case. And some of them are just straight up gambling.
Yeah. Well, I think the social aspect of meme coins is what makes them work.
Like NFTs. There's a
So-
social aspect to NFTs.
So NFTs have a lot of different
or
use
community.
cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So the communities are important, but they have a lot of different use cases.
Right.
So PFPs is a huge part of NFTs.
PF,
Okay.
what is, explain that?
That is your
The visual,
your profile picture.
the picture, what you see.
It's your profile picture.
Right.
PFP profile.
But NFTs can give you access. Like you have one for Raoul Paul's
yeah, for the
company,
Real
right?
Vision.
Real
Yeah.
Vision. Real Vision Crypto, or just is it Real Vision?
It's called Real Vision, and
Okay.
then it's the Real Vision Collective,
Right.
and then they provide information about timely information about news, investing in crypto.
So
things
that's
like
what it
this.
gives you access to.
Yeah.
By using that, you can get access to that information. Like you can see things I can't see
That's
because
correct.
you have that.
That's
NFT.
correct.
Right.
So that's a different kind of a use case than a
Right.
PFP.
Right.
And so that was my point. When we talked about Metashima, last week or the week
Yeah, it was
before,
last week.
same kind of thing. It's another use case for an NFT. They have lots of uses.
Mhm.
Now, meme coin is essentially a social structure. If you think
Okay.
about it, they're groups of people that rally around a specific meme.
Right.
Okay. And so they don't necessarily have a financial use case. They don't necessarily have an access case, right? They're just fun.
Mm-hmm.
or they're just part of a party that I want to be a part of.
Okay.
Okay. That doesn't translate. They're also not necessarily L1s, although Dogecoin is an L1. We were talking about Solana versus Pepe. Well, Pepe is a token and Solana is a coin, and Solana is an L1 that runs, and a bunch of things run on top of it.
Right.
So it represents a security layer and an enabler for other ecosystems,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas Pepe is just a meme.
What does Pepe run on? Or is it
It's on ETH.
it's on ETH? Is that where most meme coins run, is on ETH? Or
So there's a huge explosion in ETH coins on other on altcoin systems. So in the past, almost all of that activity was in ETH.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, Solana is having a huge meme coin season.
Okay. Is that why do you think they're pumping right now? Solana people talking
They for sure are pumping in activity. And one of the reasons that that memes are pumping and NFTs are actually pumping in Solana right now too, is fees are very low in Solana.
What was your fees on those NFTs you made last week? Right? You made those NFTs last week. Were you paying high fees?
I didn't pay that much. I think it paid about $35, something like that for two.
That's a decent amount of fees, though. Maybe not compared to the 80 you were talking about a couple of weeks ago, though.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. It's a lot lower than it could have been.
But that's a tax. That's a transaction tax.
This is one of the reasons that people complain about ETH. It's
Right.
gas fees.
Right.
Okay. And ETH is evolving. And the first step in that was a roadmap. And now they're living out the roadmap.
Mhm.
And the most recent node in the roadmap is the Denkuna.
Which was a week and a half ago around then.
It's gone live.
Right.
It's reduced the cost of transactions, the transaction rollups that come back by 99.5%.
For L2s?
For L2s.
Okay.
So for Optimism, Arbitrum, and others that want to ride on top of ETH, they can now do blob rollups that are off-chain, that are secured on-chain using a cryptograph. So the cryptograph is a very small amount of data. That small amount of data is what you're paying for on the ETH side. So the cost of securing your checkpoint on your less secure chain
Mm-hmm.
it just went down a lot because you don't have to secure a large amount of data on chain.
What's going to push the ETH gas fees down on the L1 ETH gas fees?
Well, the roadmap's pretty complex. The next most likely place is in the sharding part, where they're gonna start sharding the chain itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're gonna move to zero knowledge. So there's a lot of moves in ETH. Not necessarily gonna lower the gas like to the level of an L2 because we're still talking about the security base, right? So there's gonna be some more costs associated with that. You're running the computer basically.
Right. No, and how do you think this is going to affect the ETH ETF having these high fees with big monies flowing in like that?
So ETH still makes plenty of money.
Right.
And what it is that it's not really well suited to something like transactions, like micro
Daily transactions.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go buy my coffee with ETH. I'm not going to
Right.
go buy my coffee with Bitcoin. Everybody wants to have this. Oh, well, I use the Lightning Network to use Bitcoin to buy my coffee.
Right.
Bullshit. You use the Lightning Network. You're not using Bitcoin.
Right.
You put Bitcoin into somebody's bucket.
Mhm.
Now they're acting as an agent for you. That's just you using an agent. That's not you using the crypto.
Right.
You want to use the crypto to do the transaction, pull out your wallet, sign the transaction, and send the money to the retailer. That's going to be when you're using crypto to make the transaction.
Right.
Otherwise, it's an intermediary game. It's like you're not paying cash when you use Visa.
Right.
You're paying. It's still your money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you're not paying cash.
Right. But so if the ETH ETF inflows were like what we're seeing on the BTC inflows, like $1 billion a day. That's a lot of ETH fees. There's a lot of ETH gas fees in there.
So,
Or am I seeing this wrong?
So gas fees represent the power required to process the transactions that you want to process.
Okay.
Okay. So you're paying for cycles of CPU time in the virtual computer that is in ETH.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The EVM. Right.
Yeah. Yes. So that the fact that you have to have a computer and that computer has to use some power and
Yep.
all of that to run the process means that that's never going to go to zero, right? It's always going to be some.
Yeah.
And right now it's being used as a lever to incentivize faster processing through the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be competitive where you can say, well, I see that the average right now is 30 Gwei, but if I paid 50 Gwei, would it come faster? Okay, I'll pay 50 Gwei.
Okay.
So a couple of guys start paying that more. Now the gas fee for the next block is higher because there's all these guys that are saying they'll pay 50 to get in that block. Well, now the fee is 50 Gwei instead of 30 Gwei.
Right.
Right. So when those guys go away, the fees go back down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The more people come in and then they're like, I don't care about 50 Gwei. I'll pay 60. I need it now. Now it's 100 Gwei. Now it's 200 Gwei. Now everybody's crying about how expensive it is.
Right.
Well, okay. But that's also, I want my shit done fast.
Mm-hmm.
I want it done in the next block kind of attitude, right? That's not transactional. That's security.
But will this inhibit the inflows into the ETH ETF having those sort of gas fees?
So
$1 billion a day. Is that
when you buy GE stock, you buy based on the value of GE and what
Right.
you think it's going to go up. So I'm not really interested in if I go and deposit $10,000 and I pay $50 to move it in, that's not really a big fee.
But we're seeing people leave Grayscale on the BTC ETF
They're
because
taking
of
the
the fees.
percentages on an ongoing basis.
True.
If I buy the ETH and I stick it in my wallet, there's no other gas fee until I sell it
Okay.
or move it,
Okay.
right? So I don't pay ongoing fees.
No. Right.
Right.
I get
They pay ongoing fees.
Right.
That's what they're getting dinged for. So
okay.
so I put $1 million in Grayscale and Grayscale's at 1.5% fees. Then,
Over and over again.
Then over at the end of the year, they've got 1.5%, and they're going to want another 1.5% next year.
Right.
Well, they're taking my money.
Yeah.
But if I just take that and self-custody that in my wallet, because it's just Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
I can hold it myself.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not paying those fees. That's a different kind of fee.
Okay.
Gas fee is about moving it, right? It's about running the engine. So I'm executing a smart contract, or I'm producing a transaction block, a send or a receive type transaction block. Then there's a fee associated with putting that into the block and running enough EVM to move the asset from that wallet to that wallet. Okay.
So if I go to Coinbase, about $1 million in ETH, is the fee going to be extraordinary?
No.
So I'm not going to be looking at like those NFT fees that you were paying to mint your NFTs. It's different. I'm seeing this differently, right?
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is when you go to Coinbase, you're not on chain.
Right. They're buying it from their.
So
right.
you're going to pay a fee to them for the purchase part. Like like all exchanges have that part of it, right?
Okay.
But you're not going to pay gas fees until you want it in your own wallet.
So I move it to my trust wallet.
Now you're going to pay a gas fee to move it, and that gas fee is going to be low.
So on that $1 million of ETH I buy on Coinbase, now I want to move it to my trust wallet.
Right.
It's still not going to be like what you're talking about, the fees to mint your NFTs.
No, fees
It's
to
a lower
mint are
fee.
more because
You're using more
you're
machine.
running a whole contract. Yeah.
Okay.
So the last time I sent E from Coinbase, just a couple days ago, I paid $2.
Okay. From Coinbase to a wallet.
Coinbase to a wallet.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that amount could have been any amount.
From
It could have been-
$10,000 to $1 million.
It could have been 0.05 ETH,
Right.
or it could have been 1,000 ETH.
Okay.
And the fee would have been $2.
That's what I was getting at then. So the ETH ETFs incoming, right?
Mhm.
If they're seeing big inflows, they're not going to be paying huge gas fees for that money to be buying some ETH, even if they're buying it on chain.
Mm.
That's a different fee because they're not using that EVM like you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
So a lot of gas fee really comes from running smart contracts for things like NFTs.
right. Okay.
Right? Because what you're doing is you're executing code.
Right.
Now, I know-
Computational power.
Yeah, I know
computational power.
most people aren't necessarily real code savvy, but if you think about it, it's like an instruction, like a cookbook. And some people, when they go to cook, they got a lot of instructions, right? And every one of those instructions, they got to do something. So, grate the cheese, and they go grate the cheese, right?
Right.
And some people, they just cut a couple hunks and throw it in,
Right.
and it melts in there,
Yeah.
right? And they don't do that extra work of grating the cheese, right?
Mhm.
So that's an overhead cost to the recipe. Well, the same thing is true in a smart contract. If the contract is long, you could have more fees. If there's more instructions being
Mhm.
executed,
Okay.
then there's more time required on the virtual computer.
Right.
That time is paid for with gas.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So
Yep.
if it's just a send from this wallet to this wallet, that's a pretty well known low amount of EVM time.
That's a 1 ingredient recipe
Yeah.
versus a 1,000 ingredient recipe.
Right.
Right.
Well,
That makes sense.
if you're on OpenSea and you see something that you like,
Uh-huh.
it's like 3 or 4 steps. The person who holds it has given authorization to OpenSea to move it when it's purchased.
Okay.
So you come along and you like this NFT. Now you say, I want to buy that. This is my wallet. Okay. So now my wallet has to give money to the Coinbase intermediary wallet,
Mm-hmm.
or not Coinbase, but
Yep.
to where
OpenSea.
OpenSea. And then OpenSea has to take that asset and use it to swap with that person and then send you your NFT.
Okay.
So from there, it's me to them to them back, them back. That's like 4 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And those are all on contracts.
Okay. That's
Okay.
expensive.
So you're executing through a computer,
Right.
and you're not doing, it's not send this to that guy.
Right.
It's here's some money, go buy that from that guy and get it yourself and then bring it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why buying an NFT is a lot more expensive than sending.
Yeah. That's a lot of steps versus me just handing you cash across the table and you handing me the NFT.
Exactly.
Right.
If I could do that.
I could